Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Simon and today I'm here to have a chat with you about the Booker Prize 2024. You may be aware that there's a few different things going on in the background. For a start, there is empty space and indeed a bag which actually has some books in it. And also, this is Earl's debut onto the channel as he's now allowed in the library, seeing as it's much tidier, and is officially the fourth cat I now own. Aren't you? He's unfazed. So I thought I would give him a little bit of an intro and a bit of a starring role. I clearly know where my place is in the house because I'm on the floor. So yeah, but I thought we would have a chat about the Booker Prize long list. I don't have all the books, but I have thoughts on pretty much all the books, and have a chat about what my plans are in terms of the shortlist, possibly with the mothership, or the artist formerly known as my mother, Louise Savidge Muses. And yeah, thought I'd just have a bit of a chat. Some people might say, Simon, you haven't talked about the book of this year. Are you trying to be relevant? And the answer would possibly be a little bit. But also, I don't think you can ignore, and I haven't been intending to ignore the Booker. And I think if you're in the book industry, it's such a big bookish beacon that, you know, yeah, you hear loads of stories about it. And this year, if it hadn't been for the Booker, I might not have picked up one of what is now one of my favourite reads of the year, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I have, though, on Patreon, I did do a Booker prediction list, and then I did a Booker reaction video. Did I do predictions? I definitely did a reaction to the long list. Hopefully my bookish chat isn't as boring to you as it is to Earl here, because he's literally passed out. Earl, you still with us? Hello? Still here? You alright? Oh yeah, he's just stretched out a little bit. He's an incredibly long cat. Anyway, so yeah, I thought I would have a chat with you about my thoughts pre the shortlist being announced tomorrow. And yeah, like I said, my plans potentially for the shortlist, but also what I've read, what I have now, and what my thoughts are on all of the books. Nobody's going to care about the books, they're just going to care about him. I can feel it already. So when the long list got announced, I had read a whopping 2 of the books on the long list. When the long list was announced, I'd read 2 of the books on the long list. That would make sense. And attention seeking, I was thrilled that one of my favourite authors, Charlotte Wood, was on the list with Stoneyard Devotional, and this was one of the books that I predicted would be on the list. I have adored Charlotte Wood's writing since I read The Natural Way of Things. I think about 10 years ago. I had the pleasure of meeting Charlotte earlier this year for the first time, and we realised we have been DMing and chatting books, and I think I've interviewed her online a couple of times in that time. And this is one of my favourite of her books. I think it's got a real... It's one of those books I keep hearing people say is plotless, but actually does have quite a plot at its heart. It's about a woman who seemingly leaves her marriage, well, her entire life, to go and stay with nuns in the Australian wilderness. And while she's there, 3 big things happen. There's a plague of mice, which will stay with you forever. You'd enjoy that. So would Oscar, who's sat directly opposite me. There is the discovery of some bones of one of the nuns who used to be there, and they're going to be returned. And then also a woman returns who has a lot of impact on our narrator's life. And this book is very much about forgiveness. It's about reconciliation. It's about looking at those uncomfortable moments in our past, but it's also, it's got an otherworldliness to it, and it's a pandemic book that isn't really pandemic-y. Don't know if that makes sense, but it's superbly written. And what I love about Charlotte Wood is every single book of hers is completely different that I've read so far, and that thrills me. And I'm delighted that she's going to get a lot more attention, although at the same time, she's one of those authors where, I don't know if you feel the same about certain favourite authors you have, that you want everyone to read their work, but at the same time you sort of want to keep them just to yourself, and that is the case with me and Charlotte Wood. But I'm thrilled to see loads of people are reading this and loving it, and I've spotted in quite a few people's wrap-ups of the long list, because I've been watching along. I haven't watched individual review videos unless I've already read the book, but I have seen this do quite well in people's predictions, so that gives me hope, because I would love this to be shortlisted. I'm a big Charlotte Wood stan. The other author that I was thrilled to see on the list, who I had read already, was Samantha Harvey, and this is her latest book, Orbital. Well, it would be, because it's up for this year's Booker, so there we go. And again, this is quite different from the previous books of hers that I've read. This is about 6 astronauts who orbit Earth in one day, and it's what they observe as they see a big storm heading for land in one part, but also it's kind of just their observations on humanity from above. And it is a book that gets quite I can't say it, let alone think about it. It's a book that gets quite philosophical, but that didn't deter me, and that was making me a bit nervous before I read it. However, having read all bar one of her previous books and loving them, I knew that whatever she wrote, I would love it, and indeed I did. I think the way this book gives this sort of odd perspective of these people who are technically strangers, who are together, they're not family, yet they're kind of familiar, and the fact that they are isolated and kind of in a way lonely within their own worlds as they circle around the world, yet also orbiting each other in space. I just found all of that really interesting, and yeah, I just think Samantha Harvey is a great writer, so I'd read this before it got shortlisted and was therefore thrilled. It wasn't in my predictions, only because I predicted clear over this, as I thought that maybe the density of the philosophical elements could maybe, I don't know, not put anyone off, but maybe feel that there wasn't as much plot. But then this isn't the biggest, sorry to cover Earl, but this isn't the most plotty book. So yeah, anyway, there we go. That's those two. Then the other one that I was super excited to see that I've been sent from the publishers on the list, and I've actually read a little bit of recently, is Enlightenment by Sarah Perry. I absolutely loved The Essex Serpent. It's one of my absolute all-time favourite books. I really liked After Me Comes the Flood, her debut, which I read, I think, in the perfect or the optimal time, because I had jet lag, and it's a really dreamy, uncertain, flowy kind of book, and I was in that sort of headspace, and I really enjoyed it for her, and that was the first time I met her, and I was a little bit like, oh, all over the shop. But yeah, The Essex Serpent is one of my absolute favourite books. I didn't get on as well with Melmoth as I would have liked, but I would like to reread it actually, because I think I read it under so much hype about it being the next Sarah Perry book, and I was so excited for it, and I think I maybe rushed it a little bit. So yeah, at some point I would like to give that a reread. Anyway, I started this the other day, and this is about a well, it's set in the 1990s, although it has this gorgeous Victorian feel to it. And I did see a brilliant interview that she did on Instagram recently. So if you're following her, do check. It's with an author called Lucy Hopkins, I think. And she was talking about how this is kind of a mirror to The Essex Serpent, because The Essex Serpent is a historical novel with a kind of contemporary feel to it. This is a contemporary novel, as contemporary as the 1990s can be. Technically it's over 30 years ago, so they are history in essence, but with a kind of, yeah, this sort of Victorian feel. There's even excerpts from newspapers and stuff. Anyway, it's about this man who is asked to look into Halley's Comet, and he's not that bothered about space or anything, but kind of gets beguiled by it. And I got to the point where we'd met a young woman that he had befriended and kind of become a sort of, I don't know, extra father figure too, as she turned up at the church that he frequents, and there's thoughts around religion here. I think he's queer, so there's also going to be conversation around that, and I think that's going to be really interesting. I was loving the writing. I just happened to read it on the way back from my second of 2 days going to London and back in a day, getting up at 4:30 and getting home after 10. So I was quite tired and not quite in the right frame of mind, but I really want to finish reading this because I thought it was brilliant from what I'd read of it. And then I had 3 more books that were longlisted on the shelves. 2 that I bought, the first of which is Headshot by Rita Bullwinkel, which I was fascinated by it being about female boxers. I'm not really into sporty books, but I can't remember who I saw say it recently, but I totally got what they meant. I'm interested in sporty books that aren't really about sport. So, for example, I really loved C. Morgan's, was the Book of Kings that was up for the Women's Prize a few years ago. That was about horse racing, but really was about a dynasty, a family dynasty that was kind of all going awry, and I loved that, and I felt like this would be a bit different. I have heard a lot of people comparing it to this, which really intrigues me. I should also say today I was planning on doing a video where I talked about these two talking to each other, but I didn't get around to reading as much of this or finishing it as I would have liked. Well, I wanted to have finished it to make that video, so that's why I thought I would do this one instead. Also, I'm aware I'm talking a bit quietly because he's asleep, but I don't think he's fussed. I mean, look at him. Look at him. Anyway, so he slightly distracts me too because I just keep wanting to stroke him. But I'm intrigued for this one. It's from Daunt Books, who published some really interesting contemporary fiction, which I've had the chance of reading a few of. They also actually published some classics that I'm really intrigued in, or forgotten classics that I'm keen to get to. And of course, Daunt Bookshop is amazing. So we have that one. And then the other one that I had bought for myself, as I think I got this in West Kirby Bookshop. I picked this up at the Bookends, which is an indie bookshop I really, really like in Wellington. It's James by Percival Everett. You'll know that because I've held it up for a while. And this is a retelling of Huckleberry Finn through the character of Jim. And this seems to be the world and their wives' favourite. Like, everybody is absolutely loving this. Now, I am really keen to get to it. I have sort of not been put off because of the Huckleberry Finn thing, but I have been umming and ahhing about it and like, do I need to read that first? I've decided that I don't, but also I was umming and ahhing about reading Erasure first because I really want to see the movie. But I have got this like high on the periphery. I read The Trees by him when that was up for the Booker, and that was the year that me and Mum read the Booker Prize shortlist together. And are we going to do that again this year? Well, wait until I chat to you about shortlist, my potential shortlist thoughts, or what I predict, having only read a few, the shortlist could be. You're right there. Yeah, good stuff. Anyway, so I'm really, really keen to get to this, but I do want to read this as a standalone, I think, unlike another book that we will come to later. Then the other one I had was Colin Barrett's Wild Houses, which I actually thought was your short story collection when the publisher sent it me. I don't know why. The publisher actually sent me 2 proofs and a finished copy, so they're clearly very keen that I get to it. I was slightly put off this when it arrived because it dealt with gangs and drugs, and those are two they're two subject matters that I'm not really that fussed on reading about. I kind of, if loads of drugs end up in a book, I'm a bit like, there is one book that I do really want to read that I was reminded of because Mercedes mentioned it recently on her channel, and that is James Hanneman's Delicious Foods, where one of the narrators is crack cocaine. That intrigues me because that's different. But when it's people becoming, I don't know, addicted to drugs, or I struggle, there are a few authors who I think can do it brilliantly. Coco Mellors is one, but yeah, it's not something that I tend to head to. Anyway, that put me off this, but it's kind of been interesting to see what people have made of it. Some people seem to really, really like it. Other people seem to be really, really like nonchalant about it. I've yet to make up my mind because I haven't as yet read it, but it was one that I had. And then spookily, just after, or was it just before, or was it the day that it got announced that what the long list was, I received Creation Lake through the post by Rachel Kushner. I was about to say from Rachel Kushner. It wasn't from Rachel Kushner. It was very much from, is this from Vintage? Chateau and Jonathan Cape, who I should say have a lot of books on this list. And I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like I would like to see a more diverse selection of publishers, and if I'm honest, a bit more of a diverse selection of authors. But you know, that's all a tricky sort of bubbling melting pot cauldron mixture. I don't know what I'm talking about. I've gone off on a tangent that didn't work. Let's all move swiftly on because I won't be editing this video. But Creation Lake, this I didn't think I wanted to read because I read The Mars Room, which I thought was fine. That was longlisted and possibly shortlisted for the Booker before. However, I saw a headline this very morning that said if you love Lamb from Slow Horses, which I have become obsessed with. I'm now watching Sherwood, which if you haven't seen, get to. If you have seen it, I haven't. I'm only on 4 episodes into the first series, so don't give any spoilers, but that's amazing. Anyway, I saw a headline that compared the narrator of this to Lamb in Slow Horses, and I was like, oh my God, I now instantly want to read it. I think it's got a spy element to it and is also possibly about eco issues and maybe climate, which is sort of giving me Burnham Wood vibes at the same time. So yeah, I'm getting more and more interested as the longer I've had this book. He's bored of me talking about books now, but yeah, I'm getting more and more interested in this book the more I'm hearing about it, I guess. So yeah, I would like to give this one a whirl. And then before we talk about the books that I don't have, because I don't have them, the book that I bought because of, he really has got bored. The book that I bought, Earl, the book that I bought because it got longlisted, and I'd seen it about and seen a quote on the front from Tracy Strellier, who I really trust with book picks because I know she doesn't give quotes often. But yeah, The Safekeep by Yael van der Wouden. This instantly enthralled me. A story about an old house post World War II by a Dutch author, so giving, I was hoping, and indeed it did, give a different angle on the post-war era. I don't love books set around World War One or World War Two, but I find the in-between years and the post-World War II years really fascinating. So yeah, that really intrigued me. Plus, it was a woman living in the house, feeling like the maid might be stealing things, and having 2 brothers who lived away, one of whom brings his girlfriend to stay there for a while, and she ain't happy about it. All of that really intrigued me. It was giving historical old crumbly house vibes, and that is something I'm very here for. And I read it and I absolutely love this book. I think it is absolutely phenomenal, and I think because of that, and the fact that I loved this so much, and the fact that I loved this a lot and was super keen to read another 3 of them, it has definitely made me much more interested in the long list. However, you may notice there are 5 books that I don't have, so I'm going to talk about them very, very, very quickly. I mean, you're probably all booked out by this point, but I just wanted to mention it because there are some that I haven't got yet that I'm really, really keen to get, and some that I'm not that fussed about. But we'll come to my shortlist predictions and if I'm going to read the shortlist or not shortly, but shortlist shortly. So anyway, shortlist thoughts shortly, shortlist predictions short. Move on, Simon. Don't try and be too clever about it. So the first of the books that there were 2 books that I'm pretty sure I got sent and I just can't find them anywhere. So one of them is Held by Anne Michaels. I have read Anne Michaels before because she has won the Women's Prize, and I read all the 25 winners, well, all the ones I hadn't read when it was the 25th anniversary, and Mum did the same. And I like her writing. This one didn't appeal to me initially that much, although I definitely kept the copy, so I do not know where it's gone. But I saw, I think it's Roro Reads, who talked about these small moments around the fire between characters that really, really has started to appeal to me. That is giving, for me, autumn vibes. I don't know if that's the case or not. If you read it, I'd really, really love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of the books on the long list down below. But also, the fact that I've read it before and enjoyed her, I was like, yeah, that's one that I could read. And then the other one that I got sent from publishers was My Friends by Hisham Matar. And that's the one that I think I kept the proof. Again, don't know where I've put it. I don't think I've got rid of it because I haven't got rid of any proofs for it. Well, until this weekend when I had an epic clear out, and if you want to see that footage, it's all on Patreon, which is linked down below. But I wasn't too sure about it, but that's the one, again, alongside, I guess, Creation Lake, that has got me more and more interested as I've heard more and more about it, because I know generally enjoyed it. I watched her vlog of reading it recently. The Disco King, I think it was his number one. Like I said, I've been watching quite a lot of people's wrap-up thoughts about it, not individual videos on them, unless I've read them. I think Rara Reed's had it quite high, and Ben Reed's Good, I think, had it at number, well, I think it was in his top 3, I want to say. Or was it? Maybe it wasn't. Maybe that was one of the ones I was surprised by. Anyway, but I've heard, yeah, the buzz that I've heard about it from other people has made me much more interested to read it. So if that's shortlisted, I definitely want to get my mitts on that one. So yeah, that's Held, and that is My Friends. I did buy, should have had it to hand, don't. It's in the pile of books somewhere over there. I did buy There, because Tommy Orange's Wandering Stars is on the long list. Now, this is the one where I've kind of heard you need to have read There to really get the most out of Wandering Stars, because I think Wandering Stars is in 2 parts. The first, which is before There, and the second, which is post There. And whilst clearly it must stand alone because the judges have put it forward for the prize, and I would like to say at this point, I do feel for book prize judges, because they can never get it right. They're never going to please everyone. And I think I've also found this really weird thing, sort of standing back a bit, or having a bit of distance from the book of this year, where I'm a little bit like, why do people like go for it with such venom sometimes? Like, people really want to hate it, and I don't really understand that delight in that sort of negativity. You know, the judges are given a task. I've judged prizes. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when you know that book prizes can make or break, or not make or break, that's not the right term, but they can certainly make an author's career, and can come at really pivotal, important times in an author's life. So yeah, I don't know, it's a big task, and I think seeing the sort of almost like condescending responses to a panel of judges and their picks, and maybe in the past I've done it myself, possibly. I think I've had a few years where I've been a bit grumpy with the odd Booker longlist or shortlist, but also it's brought loads of brilliant moments, like when I got to do the BBC live show and sort of talk about the shortlist and which ones I predicted the winner. That was the year that Milkman won, but I wanted S.C. Adugan to win with Washington Black, so I think that's an amazing book. I got to host with Natalie Haynes, who's just a joy, and she wanted the next author I'm going to mention. Good segue, because I've gone off on a tangent there. She wanted The Overstory by Richard Powers to win, which I really, really enjoyed, and I am intrigued for Playground. I have a feeling Creation Lake and Playground could end up being on the shortlist, because they're both published just on the cusp of it being announced with Creation Lake, I think, and then Playground is published after the shortlist is announced, and that might just be me strategizing or theorizing a little bit too much, but I did just think, that's interesting that a book that's going to be out after the shortlist is on the long list. We'll see, who knows. But I have heard that that Playground does for the sea what The Overstory did for trees, and that really intrigues me. I know, sorry. But yeah, I'm really intrigued to head to that one when it comes out, because yeah, I didn't read Bewilderment actually. And that's interesting, because I really, really liked The Overstory. It was a good old girthy bad boy that would also be perfect actually for autumn. Anyway, that's not this book. This book is Playground. I really like the American edition a lot more than the UK edition, just to throw that in there. Don't know why, but I just wanted to. So yeah, so we've had Held, we've had Wandering Stars, we've had My Friends, we've had Playground. There's one more. Is it The Short History of Everything by Claire Messud? I know I've said that wrong. It's something else. But this one, I think out of all the ones that I don't have, possibly intrigues me the least, only because I've heard there's quite a lot of World War in it, and that just isn't to my personal taste. That said, I haven't sampled any of it. I haven't seen it in a bookshop as of yet. And I think when I next head into one, I might give it a bit of a whirl and see. But like, yeah, I've heard very mixed things about it. But I do like to make my mind up because we all have different tastes. And again, going back to the judges, that's the whole thing. Everyone has such differing taste. And I think rather than get bolshy or snarky or a bit arsey, like just have a really interesting discussion and debate about it, because that's what's so brilliant about books. We read them on our own and then we come together with all sorts of ideas and feelings and all those thoughts about them. And did I say thoughts twice there? Possibly. And the discussion is what is so exciting. So yeah, so that's my thoughts on the long list. 25 minutes of those. Lucky old you. I'm sorry that Earl's gone, I know. It's disappointing. He was the best bit about this video, possibly. So, what do I think might be on the shortlist? I did send a message to Mum because we were talking about whether we are going to read the shortlist or not this year together. I think I might read it either way, and I'm hoping that might encourage her to. I mean, let me know in the comments down below. Would you like me to read the shortlist? Are you bookered out and just don't want to hear any more about it? Are you desperate to hear more about it? Can you not get enough? I would love to know all your thoughts on that below. And also, would you like to see me and Mum read it together if she's up for it? I've left the tweet? No. The artist formerly known as X. It's not even that. Like she's the artist formerly known as my mother. No, I've left our message up there so you can see that, well, you'd have to have really peered closely. But basically, I couldn't remember whether she was up for reading the shortlist or not. And she said, oh, maybe. And I was saying, yeah, me too. I think I'm leaning towards giving it a whirl. And she was like saying, shall we see what's on the shortlist? And I said I was hoping that the shortlist was going to be made up of Sarah Perry, Percival Everett, Charlotte Wood, Yael van der Wouden, Samantha Harvey, and My Friends by Hisham Matar. I think that was what I said to her in that message. It's gone now from the screen. So yeah, but that would be a very lucky guess if it was the books that I read and loved plus the ones that I'm most keen to get to. I mean, I am really keen to get to these two, I will say, and at some point will regardless. But yeah, I think I'm probably going to give the shortlist a whirl. What do I actually think will be on the shortlist? I feel like My Friends is definitely going to be on there. I would really like, but one thing I should say is that I think sometimes is forgotten about long list to shortlist. These are books that the judges will have to have read more than once, and a second read of a book, and it's quite often why I don't like rereading, a second read of a book can really change your opinion on it. And I do wonder with this, if a second read is going to make you all the more interested to spot what you missed, or actually like, oh, I know what's coming and I know the layers of complexity and cleverness. And I mean cleverness in a nice way, not like a thinks it's too clever for its own good. So that intrigues me. But I would, whereas, say I'm off on a tangent again, whereas I think you could get more and more out of this on a second reading. Not sure on this one what a second reading would do. I think maybe I would get more out of it reading it again, but there we go. Anyway, so what do I actually think will make the shortlist? Well, I'm really hoping Stone Yard Devotional does. I think it's really different from anything else that I've read this year. Also, obviously, I love Charlotte Wood, so I'd be thrilled if that was there. I think the Safekeep is an absolute corker, and it might not necessarily seem like a book, but what is a book? And I did see Kieran asking that question earlier today on her channel. But yeah, I think that could be there. I feel like this is definitely going to be on the list. Then when it comes to the rest of them, the ones that I don't have, I feel like My Friends is in with a really good shot. So I'm going to say that one. I have heard there's some questionable dialogue / stereotyping in Playground, so I'm not going to pick that one. I don't think I'm going to pick the Claire Messud, even though maybe that's one you can get more out of on a reread. Wandering Stars, I wouldn't be upset if it was on the short. I wouldn't be upset if any of them are on the shortlist, but like I wouldn't be upset to have to read that. I do think I would have to read there before I read it, and therefore I'm not sure if that therefore is a shortlistee because of that. But yeah, so I don't think that will be on it. I don't think Held will. yeah, I think that's all of those ones that I mentioned. So that means I've got 2 more spots. If we imagine that, let's just turn this around, because I don't think this is going to be on there for some reason. It almost sounds, I was going to say it sounds too fun for the Booker, but there can be fun books on the Booker. I nearly said quite wrong thing. I've got fun and Booker mixed up and nearly said. So anyway, let's pretend that's My Friend by, it's my pretend friend, My Friends by Hisham Matar. I would love to see Sarah Perry on there, because I think that's a book that you'll get more and more out of, just from what I've heard about it. And then I think I'm going to go with the wild card of Headshot. It's between Headshot and Orbital for me, but I think a book that divides people so much is going to get the judges really talking. And also it could be one of those ones where some love it, some don't, but it ends up on there because of the, like, sometimes you have to barter. If you know, like, what is a definite, like, winner or your definite top 3 or 4, yeah, it can end up in quite an interesting conversation. I would love to be able to talk about the experiences that I've had on judging panels. I mean, I'd love to judge the book. Like, isn't that one of, well, the dreams of anyone who's super booky? Yeah, it's one of those things where it's quite the experience, quite a lot of pressure. There can be, I've had some absolutely harmonious, joyous panels. I've had some that have been really tricky and where you've had to, like, argue, barter, all sorts. But yeah, I think for me, maybe that is what I'm predicting. And I think maybe my personal one, I think that would be my personal one too. Maybe swapping Headshot out for Samantha Harvey, just because I really want to see Samantha Harvey get much more attention, like I do Charlotte Wood, even though at the same time they're authors that I just want to have all to myself. So yeah, there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed meeting Earl, who rudely left halfway through because he was so bored of me talking about books. And I would love to know in the comments down below, as I said, your thoughts on the long list, what you think might make the short list, and if you would like to see me and possibly me and my mum read the shortlist together in the coming weeks and months. I'm going to head off now. I hope you're doing super duper well and reading something fabulous, and I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye.